My daughter-in-law smirked across the table and said, "You get $1, Mom." The lawyer's silence felt louder than thunder. I didn't flinch. I'd already read every page she hadn't. When the next line was read, her smile vanished like smoke. The story's just beginning. Before I begin, tell me, where are you listening from today? I drove up Peachtree under a sky so bright it made the glass towers glare. My old sedan wheezed into the parking space across from the Pruitt building. I slipped Osric's black coat around my shoulders, the one he wore to every church fundraiser, and took a slow breath before stepping inside. The marble lobby smelled like citrus and polish, the kind of scent meant to remind you whose name was on the building. The receptionist nodded. "They're expecting you, Mrs. Kinlaw." I thanked her and walked into the conference room, its floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over Atlanta. The air felt thin, too cool. I saw the camera dome in the corner, the speakerphone light blinking red. Sable sat there already, dressed like she was hosting a lifestyle segment. Cream dress. Nails painted in that expensive shade called nude. Her phone lay face down but unlocked. Quentin scrolled through his email, jaw tight, eyes everywhere but mine. Across the table, Reginald Pruitt rose, his handshake firm. "Morning, counselor," I said evenly. The stenographer adjusted her machine, keys clicking like a nervous heartbeat. I placed my worn leather wallet and a small notebook before me. "In for 4, out for 6. I told myself, my grandmother's breathing trick for moments like this. Reginald cleared his throat, but Sable leaned forward first. Her voice was sweet tea laced with vinegar. "You get $1. Mom." For a second, everything stilled. The hum of the air unit, the scratch of the pen. My pulse didn't move. I touched the hem of Osric's coat, grounding myself in something that once meant safety. "It's just how these things go," she added with a shrug that carried more poison than words. I noted the phrasing, the exact smile. "We will proceed per the executed instruments," Reginald said. I nodded once, giving the room nothing more. Humiliation only grows when you water it. I let silence be my witness. Reginald began reading. Dates, docket numbers, the kind of language that sterilizes betrayal. He slid folders across the table, each stamped with embossed seals. Azaria Kinlaw, surviving spouse. Quentin Kinlaw, son. Sable Routledge, daughter-in-law. Quentin adjusted a cufflink. Tiny movement, loud meaning. I caught it and filed it away. "Exhibits A through C," Reginald instructed the stenographer. The rhythm steadied me. Procedure always had that effect. I brushed a gray curl behind my ear and waited. The page would turn soon. When it did, the sound of paper became thunder, Reginald said softly. "Now, the next page." His fingertip traced a red underline. "In terrorem clause." He read, "Any beneficiary who contests, maligns, or unduly influences the administration shall be limited to $1. The words landed like a gavel. The clause tied directly to the Q-tip trust Osric had created for my benefit. My husband had foreseen this storm. I didn't smile. I breathed. Sable's smirk faltered, her color draining. Quentin's shoulders squared like a man suddenly realizing which side of the door he stood on. The humiliation she'd aimed at me was, in fact, her own confession read into the record. I let the quiet stretch until it became power. Osric once said, "A pause is a sentence with better manners." I pressed my thumb against the notary seal, cold and real, and whispered inside my head, paper first, emotion last. There would be no shouting matches or parking lot scenes. Every move from now on would have a date, a signature, a copy for the court. Reginald asked, "Mrs. Kinlaw, Would you like water? I'm fine, thank you, I said. Let's keep it simple. Sable gave a brittle laugh. No hard feelings, just business. Business is exactly why we read every word, I replied. Quentin muttered. We can make this smooth if everyone behaves. I met his gaze. Manners are free. Son. Reginald shuffled papers. No one signs today without counsel. That suits me, I said, folding my hands. Sable whispered to Quentin. It's handled. I looked at the recorder. Please note that I declined to comment. The stenographer's fingers resumed their steady tapping. Through the glass, traffic crawled like a slow heartbeat. The city moved on, unaware that one family had just redrawn its map. Reginald reached for a small silver USB labeled Osric. The room cooled another degree. Let's enter the video testament into the record, he said. I slid Osric's coat higher on my shoulders and finally met Sable's eyes. If you plan to laugh again, I told her quietly, do it now before my husband speaks. The monitor flickered to life, and for a second, the glow washed over the conference table like sunrise on marble. Everyone went quiet. Even the HVAC hum seemed to take a breath. Osric's face appeared, clear eyes, silver at his temples, voice steady as always. The timestamp read 6 months earlier. Azaria, my heart, he began, using the same phrase he'd whispered every morning before coffee. His tone wasn't dramatic, it was matter of fact. The way old Southern men talk when they know the truth doesn't need dressing up. If they laugh, let the law talk for you. He spoke about ordinary things, keeping the house paid, keeping the church pantry stocked, buying our granddaughter her books. Money should work, not rule, he said. My chest tightened, that ache both sharp and warm. I gripped his coat over my shoulders to hide the tremor in my hands. I didn't cry. I just breathed, making mental notes like balancing a checkbook, love, foresight, and legal armor. Osric explained the trust again for the camera, how the Q-tip would protect me, how the clause wasn't punishment but protection. He mentioned the doctor who'd tested his mind. They said I'm sound, and I want this recorded. Reginald murmured. Chain of custody. Confirmed. I turned to the camera lens and thought about everyone my age watching someday, silently nodding. Put it where it can be found, and date it. Baby, I said under my breath, half lesson, half prayer. Across the table. Sable's knee stopped bouncing. Quentin stared at his pen like it owed him an apology. When the screen dimmed, Reginald closed the laptop with 2 fingers. Deliberate. For the record, he said, Exhibit D, video testament authenticated. Sable tried a sugary tone. That was sweet. It was clear, I replied, plain and quiet. Quentin added, We all want what's fair. Fair started on paper months ago, I said. My grandmother used to say, check your temperature, baby. So I did. Room cold, ego's hot. I sipped water. Slow and steady. Composure. That's the strategy. The memory came like a slide dissolving into the next late January. Funeral home. Beige carpet, fake lilies, faint smell of wax. Sable had touched my elbow. Just a few e-sign things. Mom. Helps move things along. Her voice was sweet as syrup poured too long. I remember the iPad screen. Boxes, arrows, her painted nails tapping the glass. My temples throbbed. My vision swam. But I heard the accountant in my head. Never sign tired. Print me a copy, I said. She smiled. Oh, it's standard. I took off my glasses, patted my purse, pretending to look for them, buying time. The funeral director hesitated, but he printed it. That paper came home with me. I scanned it on my phone, still in my morning clothes. That one act turned out to be my parachute. Now Reginald slid a binder toward Sable. Metadata shows creation from the funeral home's Wi-Fi, timestamp concurrent with burial schedule. Sable's smile froze. He turned to me. Mrs. Kinlaw never signed the digital version. No power of attorney was conveyed. That little spring, I said, doesn't bounce for me. It bounces for whoever wrote it. It was standard, she whispered. Standard for who? I asked. Quentin murmured. We were grieving. I leaned in. Grief is not a pen. Reginald looked to the recorder. Let the record show Mrs. McKinlaw declined signature and requested review. My husband had left me a witness no one could intimidate. I felt the room's air shift. Sable, realizing charm, wouldn't fix this. Sable exhaled sharply. We're all family. No need for theater. Family honors paper, I said. Theater's for cheap tickets. Reginald nodded. All revisions must go through counsel. And after rest, I added, Quentin said softly, can we please not fight? We're not fighting, I said. We're clarifying. I faced the camera again, speaking as much to myself as to anyone listening beyond that glass wall. Silence isn't surrender. It's a filing cabinet waiting to open. Reginald slid a new binder across the table. Next, we confirm capacity and close the door on that argument. I rested my palm on the embossed seal. It felt cold as church steps in winter. Sable nudged Quentin, but he looked down, guilt finally landing. We're done with cute, I said evenly. Bring the doctor's word into the record. Counselor, I want the truth to have a badge. The speakerphone crackled, and a calm voice filled the conference room. This is Dr. Langston. I examined Dr. Osric Kinlaw 6 months prior to his passing. Reginald asked for plain English, and I added softly, Doc, say it so my church folks could understand. He chuckled. Mrs. Kinlaw, your husband knew who he was, where he was, and what he wanted. His memory, reasoning, and judgment were sound. The stenographer typed quickly. Reginald confirmed the affidavit and timestamp. I glanced across the table. Sable's shoulders were tight, and Quentin kept spinning his ring like he wished he could disappear. I thought, ask your doctor to write it, sign it, and store it twice. When Reginald opened the floor, I asked, did my husband explain that the trust's purpose was to secure my future? Yes, the doctor answered. He stated that clearly. Sable leaned toward the speaker. People say strong things when they're scared. The doctor didn't flinch. I measure clarity, not courage. His words sliced through the air sharper than any accusation. Reginald ended it cleanly. Capacity confirmed. Quentin sighed like peace had returned. But in my head, I marked it down. Moving forward doesn't mean moving loose. It means documented. We broke for lunch. I unwrapped a granola bar while Sable posed by the window. Camera tilted just right to hide the legal folders. Quentin offered coffee. Water keeps the pen straight, I said. Reginald leaned close. Expect noise after noon. I knew that rhythm. When people can't win on paper, they go public. I folded Osric's coat neatly on the chair, set my phone face down, and whispered, no hallway law. Then I texted myself a reminder. Every insult is a future exhibit. 15 minutes later. My phone buzzed nonstop. Even on Do Not Disturb, the alerts pushed through. Messages from church friends. You seeing this? I tapped one. Sable's Instagram. Soft halo filter. Caption, Saint Widow, cashing in. A TikTok used our old family photo with a voiceover calling me Gold Digger Grandma. My pulse kicked, but my hand stayed steady. Reginald looked over my shoulder. Document, he said. I took screenshots, recorded the screen, saved links, every time stamp exact. My grandmother's voice echoed. Don't argue with fools, just take notes. When we reconvened, I said to the recorder, "Counsel, I'm requesting immediate relief for harassment." Reginald dictated the memo, clean and quick, timeline, exhibits, witnesses, age protections. I gave him names: Pastor McKellar, my neighbor, the funeral director who'd seen Sable's pressure firsthand. Quentin muttered, "It's just the internet." I looked right at him. Air can carry fire. The room fell silent except for the scratch of Reginald's pen. He sent the cease and desist before we finished our coffee. Sable folded her arms. "You can't handle criticism." "Criticism cooks on fat," I said. "This is smoke." "Freedom of speech," she snapped. "Freedom has neighbors," I replied. "They're called consequences." Quentin's voice wavered. "Can't we keep this in the family?" "Family stops at the truth, not the door." Reginald dictated calmly. "Client will proceed with injunctive relief if content remains online." I closed my notebook with a firm hand. The sound felt like punctuation. That evening, back home in Cascade Heights, I brewed chamomile and labeled new folders: slander, capacity, trust, each word typed in bold. I made backups: cloud, flash drive, fire safe box. I called my pastor. "There'll be noise," I told him. "I won't clap back." Before bed, I taped a note inside the pantry: "Let paper talk." At 9:58 p.m., my email chimed. Opposing counsel refused to remove the posts, calling them opinion. Reginald's reply came minutes later: filing at 8:30 sharp. Sheriff's service by noon. I draped Osric's coat over the chair and turned off the kitchen light. "At sunrise," I whispered. "We stop calling it noise and start calling it evidence." The courthouse was already buzzing when I arrived. The marble floor clicked under my sensible shoes, the air dry with that faint paper and metal scent every government building carries. I passed through the metal detector and smiled at the deputy who waved me on. Reginald waited just past security, briefcase in hand. "We've got paper," he said. I answered, "Paper talks." That was enough. No small talk, no pity, just business. Sable and Quentin came in late. Sable wrapped in beige like she thought calm colors could hide guilt. Quentin looked everywhere but at me. We took our seats in a small conference room, exhibits stacked neatly, screenshots, affidavits, timestamps. I laid Osric's coat over the chair beside me. Rituals calm the breath. I wanted other older women watching this to remember that, Reginald whispered. "After this, we pivot to funds." I nodded. Feelings could wait. Today was a ledger day. When Iona Kress, the forensic accountant, began her presentation, the air tightened. Her chart glowed on the wall, arrows flowing from our family account to a Delaware LLC, 3 neat transfers marked consulting. The dates matched Sable's smiling photos from charity galas. Iona clicked again, and an email popped up. "Thanks for routing." Every header intact, verified, no fiction, no spin. I felt my pulse slow with each fact. "Money leaves footprints," I said quietly, "and some folks think wet cement dries invisible." Quentin rubbed his ring. Sable pressed her lips thin. Reginald's voice was calm. "Potential self-dealing patterns noted." Sable tried to sound composed. "Those were reimbursements." I looked at her. "Standard for who? The trust or your feed?" Reginald reminded her that fiduciary duty meant no gray lines. I asked Iona to define related parties plainly. "Family, business partners, anyone sharing benefit?" She answered. "So," I said, "that'd include your influencer friend, wouldn't it?" Sable flinched. Quentin blurted, "I didn't know." I met his eyes. "Then learn." I spoke the way women of my age do when we've already buried husbands in pride. Short sentences. No sugar. When it came my turn, I set out my terms: dual signatures for any disbursement, vetting for shell vendors, monthly read-only access for me. And add a clawback clause. I said, if my money touches funny hands, it walks right back. Reginald smiled. Practical and airtight. I called it common sense. I also asked for a no disparagement clause, because gossip is just theft wearing perfume. He typed that, too, for a moment. I watched the two of them, Sable, perfect posture, and Quentin, perfect silence. I remembered Osric's words. Money can't teach manners, but it sure exposes the lack. My anger didn't roar. It cooled. Older viewers will understand that stage. When fury turns into fuel. I wasn't fighting for pride anymore. I was fighting for Alara. That afternoon, sunlight poured into my living room like calm water. Alara ran in from school, holding a crayon drawing. "Granddad's library," she said, beaming. Books to the ceiling, a ladder, a chair that hugs you back. I smoothed her curls and promised, "Your library's coming." "Baby," I texted Reginald, "start education and health priority fund. Reading room donation next. Later." I wrote an instruction letter myself. All funds tied to Alara's name go toward her learning, her health, her growing. We read together for 20 minutes. She laughed at a silly story, and the house felt whole again. I whispered, "If you want to quiet a house, put a book in it." Then I slipped her drawing into a clear sleeve, a new kind of evidence, one that kept me honest. My phone buzzed before dinner. Mediation request. Sable wanted to resolve things. Reginald texted, "Bring the Parker pen. 1 page. No wiggle." I placed Alara's drawing beneath the paperweight that used to hold Osric's notes. Tomorrow, I'd carry a pen, a page, and a picture. 1 to sign, 1 to bind, and 1 to remember why. The mediation room looked like someone had tried to make peace out of furniture. Frosted glass walls, a pitcher of water too cold to drink, a tissue box nobody would dare touch. The mediator, a middle-aged man with careful eyes, went over the ground rules. Confidentiality, good faith, no outbursts, I said softly. Good faith needs good paper. Reginald smiled at that, carrying a thin leather folder. I placed Osric's Parker pen right in front of me, black lacquer, gold trim, where it could remind everyone that history was still watching. Sable came in a different costume today, neutral blouse. No halo filter, just a face trained for sympathy. Quentin followed, jaw tight, tie crooked. "We'll begin with Mrs. Kinlaw's proposal," the mediator said. I nodded. 1 page, I told him, because short papers don't hide snakes. I slid the single sheet across the table. Mutual terms for peace and administration. It read at the top, bold, clear sections. No disparagement, no interference. Education and health priority. Dual authorization. Clawback clause. Read-only access. Each line spoke plain English. If you break it, funds rewind. No arguments, just math. Though I watched Sable's expression harden, then melt into something that tried to pass for politeness. Reginald said evenly, "Ready for signatures when the parties agree?" Sable's voice took on that syrupy tone she used when talking to donors. "It just feels gaggy, you know? Like I can't even defend myself," I replied. "Defense speaks to facts. You've been speaking to strangers." She asked for a carve-out for opinion. Reginald leaned forward. "Define false statements," he said, "and harassment." Quentin tried to help, muttering, "Maybe we can narrow it." I smiled slightly. Narrow truth? No. The mediator suggested compromise. Mutual, no disparagement, with exceptions for counsel or clergy. "Add my pastor," I said. God already knows. Might as well let Reverend hear it too. Then came the money talk. Sable protested the dual signature rule. It's inefficient, I answered. Efficiency is how money disappears. She rolled her eyes. Quentin asked if my read-only access could expire. Quarterly review, I said. No sunset. Reginald listed the guardrails. Vendor vetting. No related party payments. Monthly summaries for both sides. The mediator wrote it all down. Repeating, clean process, clean conscience, I echoed. We're cooking for a child here. Clean kitchen, clean hands. When the time came to sign, the room slowed. Reginald passed me the page. I uncapped Osric's Parker pen and signed my name with one clean stroke. The scratch of the nib was louder than anyone's breath. Sable's fingers hovered when the pen came her way. She hesitated, then signed, lips tight. Quentin followed, eyes on the table. Reginald dated every line, initials neat as surgery stitches. Counselor? I said when silence settled. Attach any auxiliary letters my husband left. Reginald pulled out an envelope marked in Osric's looping hand. Open upon conflict. Sable laughed nervously. We're just about done. No need. Peace needs witnesses, I said. Reginald broke the seal. Inside, a single page. His voice was steady as he read. If any party maligns or harasses my wife, their distributions are frozen for 24 months from last offense. Online conduct counts. Apology in writing lifts. Freeze after 90 days. The words hung heavy as iron. Sable's face drained color. Quentin whispered, 24? I leaned back and folded my hands. Ready to sign with this attached? I asked. They both signed again, slower this time. The mediator collected the copies. Reginald confirmed the freeze clause entered into record. Remove all online material within 24 hours, I said, or the clock starts now. Chairs creaked. The air thinned. I capped the Parker, slid it into its velvet sleeve, and rose. As we stepped out, my phone buzzed, an audio file from building security. Time-stamped last month. The preview showed Sable's voice saying, just sign, we don't have all day. I met Reginald's eyes. He gave a single nod. If the pen closed the door, that recording was about to lock it. Reginald and I stopped near the stairwell, where the echo softened and no one pretended not to listen. He opened the email from security, tapped play. Sable's voice filled the air, flat, hurried. Just sign. We don't have all day. It's standard. No one reads this stuff. Then another voice, a friend, laughed. Get her to tap the box. Grief makes people agreeable. I could hear the ding of the elevator doors, the metallic hum between floors. I mouthed a slow count, steadying my breath. Reginald saved the file, adding metadata tags, date, camera ID, checksum. We don't need rage, I whispered. We need record. Within minutes, he drafted a supplemental exhibit notice. Exhibit G, he wrote in blue ink. I texted Reverend McKellar and the funeral director, two witnesses who'd seen Sable hand me that iPad. My phone buzzed with their confirmations. Down the hall, Quentin appeared, shoulders bent. He looked like a man trying to remember which side of the truth he'd chosen. He didn't approach. I let him walk past, silent. I told the audience in my head, if you're mad, write don't speak, paper doesn't roll its eyes. The clerk's email pinged, filing accepted. Court at 9 a.m. The next morning, the courthouse felt colder. Marble floors, wooden pews, one fluorescent light that hummed just enough to irritate nerves. I wore Osric's coat again. The weight steadied me. Judge Fairbank entered, posture like justice carved in stone. Call the Kinlaw matter, the bailiff said. Reginald stood. Opposing counsel shuffled. I folded my hands on the table, fingers still. The judge looked at me once, then at Sable and Quentin. "We'll proceed in plain English," she said. That was fine. I spoke that language fluently. When the clerk hit play, the elevator's ding echoed through the courtroom. Sable's voice, hers unmistakable, spilled across the speakers, followed by that cruel chuckle. No one breathed. The judge leaned forward, pen hovering. "Date?" she asked. Reginald answered. "Custodian?" Answered again. Opposing counsel muttered about context. The judge stopped her cold. Pressure at a funeral isn't context, it's conduct. I said just one sentence. I did not sign. Even the air paused to listen. Reginald rose again, requesting judicial acknowledgement of Osric's in terrorem clause. The judge read aloud, "Contest or malign administration. Distributions reduced to $1. Her voice was calm, her words irreversible. "Do you understand?" she asked them. Sable's voice cracked. "It feels unfair." "It feels clear," the judge replied. She mentioned the social posts, the slander that had floated online, and ordered their removal within 24 hours. "Violation," she said, "will be treated as contestation." I wrote in my notebook. Clarity is mercy. Reginald outlined the protective terms we'd negotiated. Dual authorization, vendor vetting, read-only access. The judge nodded, adopting them as interim court orders. They weren't favors anymore. They were law. She set a review hearing in 30 days. "Reputation repair starts with repentance," she said when opposing counsel tried again. My shoulders loosened for the first time in weeks. Outside, the sun hit like glass. Reginald said quietly, "We'll serve takedown notices by noon." Quentin stood by the elevator, guilt written in small print across his face. "Ma, I'll help clean it up," he said. I nodded once. Sable's phone lit with nothing but her own reflection. "Remove, prove, apologize, stay clean 90 days, I told her, voice even. Or freeze. The elevator chimed again. Same sound, different truth. My phone buzzed with an email from the bank. Distribution freeze will apply upon verified violation. Then another notification. Sable's post had auto-published. Sarcasm intact. Reginald read the timestamp, sighed. "The clock just started," he said. If she wanted $1 so badly, the law was ready to give it to her, every month. The bank email arrived before sunset, short and cold. Interim order loaded. Verified maligning behavior triggers immediate distribution freeze under side letter. I read it twice while the clock hummed above my kitchen sink. Reginald's message followed seconds later. Screenshots attached, timestamps clean. He'd sent them to bank counsel with the subject line, "Trigger event log." I replied, "Apply as written, no exceptions." The hum of the refrigerator felt like applause too polite to interrupt. I told myself, say less in victory. Paper was talking fine. Reginald texted again, "Draft apology terms." I answered, plain, dated, public. Within an hour, we built a structure no one could wiggle through. Public post on the same platforms. Direct admission the statements were false and harmful. No excuses. Comments locked for 72 hours. Pledged to stop messaging me. Pinned for a full month. Add 90 days clean behavior. Apologies to the pastor and funeral staff. "And this line," I said. "This apology is not a negotiation for money." He typed it in silence. I could almost hear his smile through the phone. Then came the fallout. A sponsor paused Sable's campaign, pending legal review. The charity board where she sat called to confirm her resignation request. Quentin's company scheduled a wellness check. I listened to it all from my kitchen table, hands steady on the mug. The Deacon group chat went silent before one brave man wrote, "Let's pray for truth and mercy." I told the audience in my mind. Consequences aren't revenge. They're gravity. When the charity chair called me for comment, I said, "Handle it in policy, not pity," and hung up. Quentin came by at dusk. I set 2 glasses of water. "I'm not here to fight," he said. "Good," I replied, "because this isn't a courtroom." He wanted to help clean the mess online, meet the apology terms. I told him Alara wouldn't hear a single word about this at school or dinner. "Your apology is yours. Mine is peace." He nodded, shoulders slumping like surrender had finally found its use. "Should I ask you to talk to her?" He tried. "Law speaks to Sable," I said. "I'm retired from that job. Later." I filed the freeze notice in the fire-safe box, printed my instruction letter for Alara's trust, and emailed her counselor to confirm stability. No late-night replies, I reminded myself, taping the note to the pantry. Chamomile, cracked window, and the faint smell of Osric's coat. Routine kept my dignity upright. Morning brought new clarity. The bank confirmed Sable's funds were frozen, Quentin set to monitor. Reginald resent the checklist, 24-hour cure, 90-day clean window. I called Reverend McKellar, told him to accept apologies but not amplify them. The charity finalized her resignation. The brand canceled. I saved both letters under consequences. The sound of the printer was softer than any cheer. That afternoon, Sable posted an apology missing one phrase. She admitted harm but not lies. Reginald flagged it and gave 6 hours to fix. Quentin's apology, though, was clean. Tagged the church pantry, no spin. I texted him, "Thank you for the clean line." No emoji, no warmth beyond respect. Boundaries are love with paperwork. By evening, a final message came from the bank. Apology cured at 512M owners. Freeze remains for Sable. 24 months retroactive. I turned off the kitchen light, looked at Alara's drawing of the library, and whispered, "Tomorrow, I'll sign the page that turns grief into a room with a door and a light." Reginald's office smelled faintly of cedar polish and black coffee. The notary log lay open beside the window, sunlight cutting across the desk like a measured promise. I placed Osric's Parker pen in the center. Same ritual, new meaning. Reginald read the instruction letter aloud, his voice steady. Education and health only. Dual authorization. Vendor blocks on related parties. I initialed each paragraph, line by line. The notary stamped every page with that solid click that says a matter has left a motion and entered record. We filed the Kinlaw Reading Room endowment next. Books, tutors, eyeglasses. I added one clause myself. If family disputes resurface publicly, endowment spending increases for children, noise funds, learning. Reginald grinned. Policy with heart, I told him. Grandmothers write the best budgets. By early afternoon, we sat in the Trust Bank's conference room. Glass walls, polite lighting, everyone in grown-up calm. The compliance officer read the triggers, court order, verified maligning, late apology, side letter, freeze. Her tone was clinical. Justice didn't need volume. She announced, Sable Routledge's distribution is reduced to $1, effective immediately. The printer hummed, spitting out a check smaller than some receipts but heavier than guilt. She slid it across the table in a cream envelope stamped "Per Clause." I asked her to read the clause aloud for the record. Older folks watching court feeds deserve to know how paper restores balance. I signed only as witness, not beneficiary. Boundaries feel better when notarized. Sable tried to smile, maybe to prove she was still performing. "This is performative," she said. I answered, "No, this is contract." She opened the envelope, stared at the single dollar like it might vanish. Quentin just watched, his face half disbelief, half comprehension. You could almost see the lesson setting like cement. Slow, permanent. I told Sable gently, "When you're ready to do right for yourself, the door's called quiet." Counsel stopped her from replying. Professionalism can be mercy, too. I folded the memo into my folder labeled Resolution Executed in the hallway. Quentin caught up. "Can I help at the groundbreaking?" he asked. "You can," I said. 1 inch at a time. I laid it plain. No public statements. No triangulation through Alara. Keep the 90-day clean rule. "I appreciate you not calling my boss," he murmured. I smiled thin. I called the calendar instead. We set the time, 4 o'clock, community center lot. He asked if I'd ever forgive. I told him. I already stopped hating. Forgiveness is work. Today we shovel. Golden hour in Cascade Heights painted everything the color of patience. Folding chairs, a city staffer, Reverend McKellar's short prayer. The tarp dropped to reveal the sign, the Osric and Alara, Kinlaw Reading Room, a quiet place to grow, applause, soft and real. I said 3 things. We keep our word with paperwork. Books are louder than gossip. This room is for slow readers and brave hearts. Alara handed me a small plastic trowel. We turned 1 square of soil. Her laughter sounded like permission to rest. Reginald photographed, not for social media, but for the file. Good belongs beside bad, in the record. At home. I placed the dollar memo behind the fire-safe glass. "If it isn't in writing," I wrote on a sticky note, "it isn't real." Osric's coat felt lighter on its hanger. Alara read curled on the sofa, her lips tracing each word. Quentin texted a photo of his apology framed on the fridge. I brewed tea, cracked the window. Atlanta hummed steady beneath the dusk. Reginald's email arrived. All filings accepted, freeze confirmed, endowment registered. Pastor texted a pantry photo, new shelves stocked from a donation under Sable's name. Not shame, redemption, quietly delegated. I set Alara's drawing by the stove timer. Reading time, 20 minutes. Revenge is a check, I said to no one. Legacy is a room. She got $1. My granddaughter got a key. That night, as I locked the safe, the house went still until the printer in my study whirred on by itself. A single page slid out, unsigned, bearing Osric's old letterhead and 1 line typed clean across the center. The trust was never the whole story. I stood frozen, heart steady, but waiting.